교회 여러분 안녕하세요. 수요일 아침 말씀 묵상 시간입니다. 오늘 벤송 전도사님이 요한복음 14장 1절 말씀하시는데 오늘 또 말씀 묵상하시고 하나님의 은혜 속에 거하시는 여러분 되기를 기도합니다.
너 근심 걱정 말아라 주 너를 지키리 주 날개 밑에 거하라 주 너를 지키리 어려워 낙심될 때에 주 너를 지키리 위험한 일을 당할 때 주 너를 지키리 주 너를 지키리 아무 때나 어디서나 주 너를 지키리 늘 지켜주시리
요한복음 14장 1절 말씀입니다. 너희는 마음에 근심하지 말라. 하나님을 믿으니 또 나를 믿으라. 아멘.
During my time at seminary, there was one professor that I enjoyed learning from. And in fact, I enjoyed learning from him so much that I chose him 3 separate times to learn how to study the Bible. Now, the reason why I enjoyed him so much was because he firmly believed that the Bible should be read and understood as one big story. Of course, there are different types of writings found in the Bible, like poetry, historical records, wisdom literature, and even letters. But even though the books of the Bible are written differently, this professor argued that they all should be read in the context of one big story that begins in Genesis and ends with Revelation. Stories are powerful. And the reason why stories are powerful is because stories are able to communicate a message in a way that no other form of writing can. Especially when it comes to lessons on character and morality, on what is good and what is not good. When I was growing up, I remember hearing a story called 금독이 은독이. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the story and what it's about. And if you remember, the moral of the story was that honesty has its own reward. Now, why didn't the author just say that from the beginning and avoid spending the time and energy coming up with the story to communicate the better choice of being honest? Well, it's because with a story, the author is able to demonstrate the heart of the characters. And this is what makes them relatable. And once a reader can relate to a character, then they can see themselves in the story and take to heart the lessons that the story provides. This morning, our verse comes from John chapter 14, verse 1. And it's Jesus who is speaking, and he tells his disciples, "Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me." As we know, this is the night that Jesus will be arrested in the Garden of Gethsemane. And in the previous chapter, Jesus told his disciples that he is leaving them, and where he is going, they will not be able to follow him. In seeing that they were concerned and confused, Jesus tells them to not be troubled. And then he says something interesting. He tells them to believe in God and to also believe in him. Now it's clear that he is not talking about salvation and what they must do to be saved. These disciples have already made the decision to follow Jesus, and they already accepted the fact that he was the Son of God. Instead, what Jesus was telling them to do was to believe in the story that God has been telling since the beginning, and the story that Jesus is now going to tell them about how it will end. If you continue on in verse 2, Jesus then tells the disciples about where he is going and why he is going. He says that he is going to his Father's house, and the reason why he is going is so that he can prepare a place for them. And if he is going to prepare a place for them, then that means that he will come back to take them to his Father's house so that they will be with him again. Now this is the connection that I want us to see. Jesus emphasized how important it is that they continue to believe in the grand story that God has been telling, especially during times when things will get hard. As I mentioned before, these disciples already made the decision to follow Jesus. But what they have yet to prove is if they will continue to follow Jesus even when he is gone and even when things will get difficult. This morning, I want to remind us of the amazing story that God has told to us through his written word. And I also want to encourage you to become familiar again with the story of God and read through the Bible as if it was one big story. As we're waiting for things to get better, the best thing to do when times are difficult and when times are hard is to remember the story that God has written so that we will be able to keep our hearts from becoming troubled by all that is going on in the world.
전도사님 말씀 감사합니다. 저희 읽을 때 예수님께서 너희는 마음에 근심하지 말라 하나님을 믿으니 또 나를 믿으라 하신 말씀, 제자들이 힘든 상황으로 갈수록 더 세상 걱정하지 말고 또 하나님을 믿고 또 나를 믿으라 하신 그 말씀을 기억하는 것처럼 저희들의 삶이 이제 더 어려워지고 또 힘들어진다 할지라도 하나님을 믿고 또 예수님을 믿는 저와 여러분이 되시기를 간절히 소망합니다. 감사하며 기도드리겠습니다. 하나님 아버지, 예수님이 잡히시기 전날 밤 제자들은 많이 두려워했습니다. 그때 예수님께서 주신 평안과 평화의 말씀이 있습니다. 하나님을 믿으라, 그리고 또 나를 믿으라. 예수님, 오늘 저희들이 삶이 힘들고 또 어려워질지라도 정말 참 평안 주시고 세상이 주는 평화가 아닌 하나님이 주시는 안식처를 누릴 수 있는 저희들이 되기를 원합니다. 저희들 하나님을 더욱더 믿고 예수님을 더욱더 의지하는 저희들이 되기를 바라며 우리 영락교인들 주님께서 꼭 얼굴빛을 향하시사 정말 눈동자와 같이 지켜주시며 보호해 주시옵소서. 감사드리며 귀하신 예수님의 이름으로 기도드립니다. 아멘. 여러분, 오늘도 하나님을 믿고 예수님을 믿고 승리하는 우리 교회 되었으면 좋겠습니다. 감사합니다. 내일 뵐게요.